Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Olusegun Osineye. I'm here once again to bring another episode of a 1,000 book transformational challenge to you. I would like to hear your feedback on the previous episode that I have done. We've already done 3. This will be the 4th one. Let me know how you are being challenged with this book review. Let me know what you think. Let me know how the review is challenging your thinking. Let me know what we can do better. Let me know what you're looking for. Maybe you have a book in particular you want me to review, and if I've read that book, I can also do something in that line. Basically, what I'm doing is to review books that have truly transformed me. Like I told you, I've read over 1,000 books, and I would say that many of the books that I read had a definite impact that they made in my life. And that is why I am trying to review the books. I'm trying to bring out the books that have had the most impact on my life. And I believe it can have a similar impact in your life. So let me know how it's going with you, how you are being challenged to take your own, to begin your own transformational challenge. So let's get to know how uh, this podcast, this book review podcast is helping you, how it's helping me, and how it's helping everybody around you. Today, we are going to review a book written by Stephen R. Covey. Stephen Covey. Stephen Covey started as a professor, as a college professor, but later he moved into the space of people used to call them motivational speaker, but he wasn't just a motivational speaker. Most of his research, most of his work are research based. In fact, this book that we are reviewing today, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, is research based. It's not just a book that somebody just sat down and began to cook stories. They are evidence-based research work. So, and I'll be doing justice to the book because this is one of the books that really did a great transformation, did a work of transformation in my life. And I believe that if you also can read this same book, I believe that your life will be transformed. The author of the book is Stephen Covey. I don't have a physical copy here, but I remember when I read the book, I think I read the book in 2001. I went to Shagamu in Nigeria. We call it the way we call it. I went to Shagamu in Ogun State, Nigeria, to visit one of my very good friends. And I just went to pass the night with him and to spend some time with his family. And while we were having conversation together with members of his family, he just suddenly called me. He used to call me Bro Solomon. He said, Bro Solomon, I've just bought a book and I know that you will really love to see the book. And he just showed me the book. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. When I saw that book, I said, wow, this is a book I've been trying to read for a long time, but because of lack of finance, I couldn't get a copy. It was very expensive, so I couldn't buy a copy. but I really wanted to read that book. So I made a deal with my friend. I decided that I was going to read that book. And all through the night, I didn't sleep. I was just on that book. And I did read the book overnight. And it was something that I will never forget in my life, because the insight and the encounter that I got through the book that day is the story that I want to share with you today. So just for you to know the book that I'm talking about, I will just share an electronic, if I'm able to see it. It's not showing here. Okay, let's see. How can I show this book? Okay, so let me do something else. I really want to show you the book so that you can know the book that I am talking about. Uh, so this is the book that I'm talking about, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. It's a powerful book. It's a book that if you read, your life will be transformed. Just take my word for real. Your life will be transformed if you settle down to read this book. I'm going to be sharing some images from the book to you. Those images, they did some kind of paradigm shifting in my life that I don't know if my life would have been this way if not for those encounter with those images. They are very simple images, but you're going to see how they impacted my life, and I believe that they will also impact your life also. Like I said, the author of the book is Stephen Covey. You can see the name there. And the book has about 7 chapters spread across 4 parts. The total pages in the book is 282 pages. The book was published in 1989 by Simon and Schuster. If you know Simons and Schuster, they are very powerful publisher. They've churned out some incredible books, and this is one of the books that really made a difference in our world, in the world of management, in the world of leadership, in the world of personal change, in the world of personal growth. This is one book that really made a difference. The book is built on the idea of 7 powerful lessons that should become habits in our lives for personal change or for personal transformation. I'm going to unshare the book, and then so that you can see my face very well while I continue to talk. The book's impact, since the book was written in published in 1989, over 40 million copies. Can you imagine? That's staggering. Over 40 million, that's even more than the population of some country. Over 40 million copies have been sold since its initial publication in 1989. The book has been translated into over 50 languages. Can you imagine that? Over 50 languages, and it remains one of the best-selling business and self-development books in history. It has been New York Times bestsellers for many years, and the book was recognized as the #1 most influential business book of the 20th century. The #1, not #2, not #3, #1 most influential business book of the 20th century. That is to tell you how impactful this book is. Stephen Covey, a little background about him, was born in 1932. He died in 2012. He lived for 80 years. He was an American educator, a professor at that. He was an author. He was a leadership expert, leadership authority, who is best known for this particular book that we are talking about, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That is the book that is best known for. And the book has really reached the length and breadth, the entire nook and cranny of the planet. He founded the Covey Leadership Center, which later merged with Franklin Quest to become Franklin Covey, a major global professional service and leadership training firm. You can see how this man is making impact beyond the classroom. I'm not sure if he had remained as a professor, I'm not sure he would have made the kind of impact that he made, stepping outside that comfort zone to start his own leadership center. I'm going to give you a summary of the book, what I believe are my own ideas about the book. The book, when you look at the book, is a book on personal change with certain habits to develop, to experience true effectiveness in life. It's about your personal change. It's about you. It's not about what is around you. It is not about your neighbor. It's not about your friend. It's not about your organization. The book is about you. It's about how you can navigate your personal space to experience a personal transformation through the cultivation of certain habits that will lead to effectiveness in life. For me, the biggest idea of the book, if you ask me what is the biggest idea that I took away from that book, it will be the idea of paradigm shifts. That was the biggest idea that I took away from the book. That is how our perspective shape how we view the world around us. And I didn't just come out with that knowledge, but the manner in which that knowledge was exposed to me was very, very dramatic. And I'm going to show you what I meant by that. I'm going to share something once again, so that you can really understand how impactful the paradigm shifting was for me as I read that book in 2001. Nearly, that's almost over 20 years ago. So this is the paradigm. If you look at this image, depending on how you are looking at it, I don't know, for some people, they will see a beautiful young lady. If you look at this image and all that you see is a beautiful young lady, you are saying correctly. But what if I also tell you that this image you are seeing is not just an image of a beautiful young lady. It's also an image of an old woman. In this image, you have the image of a beautiful young lady. You also have the image of a very old woman. Now, when this reality dawned on me, I immediately came to a realization. Hey, come. sometimes we might be looking at the same thing and be saying different things. And both of us, or none of us, will be wrong. You will look at this image, you will see a beautiful young lady, and I will also look at the same image and I will see a very old woman. Now, who is right? Is it the person who is seeing a young lady, or is it the person who is seeing an old woman? That is the question. That is where paradigm shifting is very, very important. That is where our perspective on any issue, that is where it is very, very important. Now, look at that image very well. You look at it, you see a beautiful, this is a very beautiful young woman. And also at the same time, looking at it from another dimension, from another perspective, I am seeing a very aged woman, very old woman that you can say she's already in her 90s or almost close to 100. That is what I see. And if you also look at it, you also see a young lady that is as young as maybe in her 20s. That is the power of perspective. And that is the lesson that I took away from this book. And this is what I want you to understand about life. That life is not just about seeing the world around you in one way, or when people see the world around them in certain ways, you think they are wrong. They may not be wrong. They might be seeing something that you are not seeing. And this has really helped me in how I relate with people. Every time I relate with people and we don't share the same perspective, I don't condemn them for their perspective. All I try to do is, perhaps if I can just have a glimpse of the angle from which they are also looking at this matter, perhaps I will be sympathetic to them, or I will be empathetic to them. That is the power of paradigm shifting. Now, let me show you another image. This is one image. Let me show you. It's still the same image. Look at this. Now, if you look at this image, you will see how old the woman is. And if you also look at it in a way, in another perspective, you will see that the woman is so young, looking elegant, looking beautiful. But then if you look at the woman, if you just look at the woman, you see a very old woman. That's another, looking at it from another dimension. Now I still have another one to show you. Look at it again this way. If you look at it another way, you will still see the old woman. Perhaps maybe you see more of the old woman, but if you also care to look at it very critically, you will still see the image of the young lady. If you look at the nose of the old woman, that is the facial expression of the young lady. So we can see that our perspective is very, very critical, is very, very important over any issue and over every matter that we care about in life. Now, when we talk about your paradigm shifts, what are we really talking about? We are looking at how you perceive things, how you understand things, and how you interpret things. These are very wonderful ingredients of life. Your manner of interpretation, your manner of perceiving things, your manner of understanding how the matter really is. These are very, very crucial. And Stephen Covey said it this way. Sometimes when you have a problem in your hand, The problem is not the problem. The real problem is the problem of the way you are looking at it. The problem of the way you are looking at the problem. That is the problem. Many a times, all of us are not just battling with difficult situations, difficult challenges. We're not just battling with things that are not working well. But what we are truly battling with is how we are looking at what is not working well. But we are looking at it. That is what is most important. So the problem is not the problem. The problem is the way you look at the problem. And if you can just do a little work on how you look at the problem, then you will discover that the problem is not actually a problem. This book, I would say, is about capacity building. The 7 habits, a habit of effectiveness or of capacity building, because they are rooted in principles that bring the maximum long-term beneficial results possible. The book is about effectiveness, is about capacity building that are rooted in principles that will eventually lead to a long-term beneficial result that is possible. There are also habits of effectiveness because they are based on paradigm of effectiveness, just like I showed to you in those images that we looked at a while ago. The habit is based on the paradigm of effectiveness, how you are able to make the best use of how you look at things. What lens are you using to look at life? How do you see life? Do you see life as unfair? Do you see life as unpleasant? Do you see life as very unjust? Believe me, honestly, if you see life this way, that is the lens through which you are going to be interpreting everything that happens to you in life. And that is the result you are going to be getting out of life. But if you see life as peaceful, as joyous, as filled with abundance, filled with positive thought and energy, that is exactly what is going to happen to you. Now, let me try to break down the 4 parts of this book. The part 1, which I've just spoken about, talks about the paradigms and the principles. The paradigm and the principles. And the principles and the paradigm are rooted in the principles. Now, the part 2 talks about, Stephen Covey calls it private victory, or you can call it dependency. That is when we are at the level when we need to depend on things, on ourselves, on people around us to be able to do things. Now, the number 1 habit that is in that category, in that part 2 of private victory, and these are the things you need to do yourself before you can then move to the next level, which will be your public victory, which then gives you some level of independence. Now, the first habit that you need to develop under private victory is to be proactive. You have to be proactive. You have to demonstrate self-awareness. I have never seen any great man who does not have a very robust self-awareness. I've lived for close to 50 years now, and I've spent nearly 30 years observing people, studying people, reading books, and looking at how lives is being played out. And one thing I have discovered is that there are more people that are unaware of what is happening around them or of what is happening to them than many people that are aware of what is happening around them and for what is happening to them. But if you truly want to be successful in life, if you want to be great in life, you have to demonstrate self-awareness. This is where you need to be proactive. You need to know what is going on around you. You need to be aware of where your strength is, where your weakness is, where the threats are hiding, where the opportunities are lying. You need to be aware of all this. The management thinkers call it SWOT analysis. It's part of awareness. If you don't know what is your strength, what is your weakness, what is your threat, what is threatening you, and what opportunity lies ahead of you, if you are not aware of all this, you will be of all men most miserable. And the principle which Stephen Covey calls this, he calls it the principle of personal vision. The principle of personal vision. You have to show awareness. Your awareness has to be very strong. There are certain things, the moment they begin to reveal themselves around me, I already know where they're going to end. That is the part of awareness, self-awareness that we are talking about. Certain behavior, certain attitude around me from other people, the moment I begin to see those signals, I already know where they are going to end. If you don't have self-awareness, you cannot get this information. The second habit under this part 2 is to begin with the end in mind. To begin with the end in mind. And Stephen Covey calls this the principle of personal leadership. That is, you need to begin today with the image, picture, or paradigm of the end of your life as your frame of reference or criterion by which everything else is examined. For example, where do you see yourself in the next 30 years? Where do you see yourself? Whether you believe it or not, what you see in the next 30 years is what you will become. And if what you see in the next 30 years is vague, or is vague, or is cloudy, you cannot really see clearly. It then tells me that you're going to have difficult days ahead of you. You're going to have difficult days ahead of you. But if you have clarity of how life is going to treat you in the next 30 years, then that is exactly what you're going to get. Personally, for me, apart from having a long-term picture of where I want to be, I usually keep a 5-year steady plan. And once I begin to approach the end of that 5 years, I create another mental image of where I hope to be in another 5 years. I already know what is going to take place in my life in the next 5 years. I already know the kind of things I will be doing. What I am doing now, I didn't just start to do it. I already figured it out 5 years before now. And that is the way life should be. You should always start with the end in view. That is the way to live your life. That is one habit you need to develop. That is where you need your personal discipline to be able to get this done. Without this, life will treat you in an unkind way. It is those who understand where they go that life makes way for. If you want life to make way for you, you have to see the picture of where you're going. The third habit that is very, very crucial to your personal victory is that you need to understand when to put first thing first. This talks about priority, how to prioritize yourself, how to prioritize your time, how to prioritize your life, how to prioritize the activities that surrounds you, the things that you need to do. You are not doing the things that are unimportant and leaving the things that are important behind. You need to learn how to prioritize. And Stephen Covey calls this the principle of personal management. In other words, there is need for you to organize your life. Not just organizing your life, you also need to know how to get them executed. Organize your life and execute around the things you have prioritized. Execute around the things you have prioritized. And one of the ways through which Stephen Covey says we can get this done is through delegation. You need to learn how to delegate things. In prioritizing our life, we need to learn how to delegate. You cannot do everything. I've seen people who wants to be they want to be gardener, they want to be the laundryman, they want to do everything by themselves. I'm not saying you can't do it, you can do it, but you will be missing a lot. There will be other things that you could have done better that you will not be able to find time to do because you are busy focusing on the things that are not necessary. So you need to prioritize. Stephen Covey says when you delegate your time, we think of efficiency, but if you delegate to people, then you are thinking of effectiveness. That is, you are assigning to people what you can do that you know other people can do, or even they can do better. If you know any work you are doing that other people can do, you need to delegate it to them so that you can spend your time on the most important thing. The part 3 of this book talks about the public victory. You know, we started with the paradigm and the principle, then the private victories, which is you need to be proactive, you need to begin with the end in mind, you need to put the first thing first. Then now going to the public, when you now begin to demonstrate some level of independency, you are not really depending on people to get things done this time around. You are now beginning to show some level of liberation, of some level of freedom. Now, this is where public victory comes in. And the habits you need to develop to get this going are: number one, you need to begin to think in win-win situation. Many a times, maybe for me, when I started off in life, I always believe that if it's either I win, you lose, or you win, I lose. I don't believe, not that I don't believe, but That's the way I used to see life then. I believe that the moment I lose, then somebody has won. And the moment I win, somebody has lost. But life is not designed, is not supposed to be designed that way. We can actually have a situation whereby you win and I also win. That is the new mentality that I have developed over the years. You don't have to lose for me to win. I don't have to lose for you to win. We can actually win together. So win-win, according to Stephen Covey, is not just a technique. It's not just a technique. It is more of a philosophy. If it's a philosophy of human interaction, which I consider to be the centerpiece of human connection. You know, when you have the mentality of win-win situation, then it shows that you have other people's interests at heart. And this cannot be nothing less than a public victory. You have the interest of other people at heart. And Stephen Covey calls this the principle of interpersonal leadership. Interpersonal leadership. You have moved from the realm of personal vision and then move away from personal management to interpersonal relationship, managing people from where you are, managing people around you and managing people that can help you take your dream to the next level. The fifth habit that we need to develop under this public victory is what Stephen Covey calls seek first to understand and then to be understood. I wouldn't know, maybe it was this book that did it for me, but for some reason, I just suddenly discovered that these are my principles in life. Every time I have to spend time with people, I don't just want to be understood. I also want to understand what they are saying. I also want to see things the way they see it. I also want to have an idea of what they are talking about. And that is something that every one of us should work towards. You must seek first to understand and then to be understood. This principle is about empathetic communication. That is, you are not just prescribing before you diagnose what is going on. Rather, you are diagnosing the problem before you make prescription. That's the way it works. When you diagnose the problem, you are seeking to understand. That is how to diagnose problem. You are seeking to understand. And then when you now prescribe, then you have actually, you are now wanting people to understand that this is now your own position of the matter. And this is very, 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 very critical for me. I remember when I took my clinical pastoral training. One of the very first class that I did was on how to communicate, and we were looking at the idea of active listening. Now, by nature, for a long time, I've always thought that I need to control conversation. Not that controlling it, but I just feel I always feel this burden that I need to get the conversation going, because if I don't get it going, the conversation may end up being boring. We may not have things to talk about. We may not have good things to talk about. So I always feel that burden on myself that I need to do certain things right in a certain way to control the conversation. But I was doing it wrong. It was when I was doing this pastoral clinical training that I understand that communication is not actually you controlling the conversation. Communication is actually you being present to hear what the other person has to say. That is what we call active listening. You are not just waiting to interrupt and then make some comments, and then you allow the person to talk and then you interject again. That is not the way communication works. You're waiting, listening, present, showing empathy as the other person is making his own case or our own case, and then you are listening with empathy in your heart. That was one lesson that I learned that I know that I really thank my God that I learned that aspect of listening, of communication. And that is what we call practicing active listening. Practicing active listening. Active listening is not just you just sitting down. You're just, that's another thing people think they are doing. They just sit down and they are listening, but they are not there. They are not in the conversation, even though they are listening. That's not what active listening is. Active listening is showing presence, being there with them to know what they are talking about. The sixth habit of your public victory is synergy. Synergy was a word that I learned as an undergraduate when I was doing, is it business policy? There was one course we were doing as a business admin student when I was an undergraduate. That was where I learned the word synergy, and it has stuck with me ever since that time. And the principle of synergy is about creative cooperation. Creative cooperation, that's the way Stephen Covey calls it, creative cooperation. And it is the exercise of all the other habits. What it means is that the exercise of all the other habits prepares you for the habit of synergy. You know, when you put all the other habits that we have mentioned together, then you now bring them together. They work in such a way that they cause a synergy inside of you, which helps you to unlock the power that is within people. It helps you to unlock the greatness that is in people. That is what synergy is. Synergy, by definition, simply means the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. That is when you try to put, let me say, a machine that is fitted together with different parts. When you try to put them into different pieces and you put them out unit by unit, element by element, you know, each of them cannot independently work better than when they come together as a whole to produce a result. That's what we are talking about. That is what synergy is. And that is what happens when you try to, when you allow all the habits to now converge in one place to unleash the greatness that is in people. The fourth part of this book is called renewal. The fourth part is called renewal, which is the interdependency. You know, you began with dependency, you move to independence, then you move to interpersonal. Now, this is not renewal, is simply talking about interdependency. That's the way Stephen Covey puts it. And the habits that you need to develop in this level or at this level is the habit of sharpening the saw. The habit of sharpening the saw. And what does that talks about? It talks about you learning to occasionally take a break and sharpen your saw through learning, relearning, and sometimes through unlearning. Now, while it is easy for some people to learn and relearn, it is quite difficult for some people to unlearn. And believe me honestly, true learning and relearning cannot truly take place unless you understand what you need to unlearn. You are not just learning about new things or how to do a thing better, you also need to unlearn how not to do it. And this is where the sharpening of your saw is. You know, Stephen Covey made an analogy that if two people are given a task of cutting a tree down, and then one of them decided to sharpen, one of them was just using the saw, he was not sharpening it because he believed that if he takes a break from the work, he's going to spend more time cutting down the tree. That the time he would have used to take the break, he can use that time to do more work. Sometimes doing more work does not necessarily result in effectiveness. Sometimes you need to step back and take a break and sharpen your tool. You reskill, you retool, and then you come back to the work, and then you have an amazing result. While the other guy was busy cutting down the tree, the other guy took a break, went to the person who can help him sharpen his machete, and then gave him some few changes, and then came back and was able to do the work much more effectively and better than the one who would never take a break because he felt taking a break will necessarily make him to spend more time in doing the work. Whereas not knowing that it is actually taking the break that will help him to spend less time to do the work. Because by the time he comes back, the machete will be sharper, and then he will be able to do a better job. So how did I feel after reading this book? Well, I realized that there is usually more than one way of seeing life. That is the realization that I came out with after I read this book. I suddenly realized that there is usually more than one way of seeing things. Believe me honestly, that is the way I interact with people. That's the way I engage with life. I always believe there is more than one way of doing it. No matter how profound your result is, I always believe there is also another way that job can be done. For the fact that you got a result one way doesn't mean that is the only way results can be gotten. There are countless other ways, there are countless other approaches that we can take that can also deliver, if not a better result to us. So that is one thing I realize about life, that there is usually more than one way of looking at life. And in Yoruba adage, the Yoruba people will usually say "Onoko Waja," which means the road to the market is not just one way. There are other several outlets that can lead to the market. That's a very profound proverb from the Yoruba people. So how you see life is largely dependent on your most internalized paradigm. How you see life is largely dependent on your most internalized paradigm. For example, if you see life as a life of sorrow, a life where things doesn't work out, and you internalize it so much, that is how life is going to be to you. It's not a curse. That is your worldview. That is the way you interpret the world, and that is what you are going to get out of the world. But if you want a different world, then you need to break that paradigm. Sometimes it can be instantaneous. Sometimes the paradigm shifting can just be lit small by small. It can just be happening to you gradually, gradually, gradually until you experience that shift. So for me, when I interact with people, I don't easily get irritated when people stand on a particular point of view. I don't easily get irritated. Not that I won't, some people would not make you feel irritated. Some people would deliberately make you feel irritated. But most importantly, this idea has helped me to know how to relate with people. When people are talking in one way, I usually understand that that is the lens through which they see that thing. And it helps me to accommodate that understanding that they have about the world. However, I don't easily get irritated uh, because people see the world a certain way and I don't see it that way. Rather, I try to understand where they are coming from and why they are making arguments for what they are standing for. That is one lesson that I believe the book has really taught me. If you ask me if my expectation, my experience actually met my expectation of the book, I would say absolutely, even beyond what I thought I was going to find in the book. I have I've dreamt of reading the book for a long time until I went to my friend's house in Shagamu. And lo and behold, I was treated to having the opportunity to read the book I have longed for many years. I read the book and my life was never the same again. If you ask me, what did you live? What is the most important thing that you gain from the book? I would say the one powerful phrase that left with me or that has stayed with me from the book is the power of a paradigm shift. The power of a paradigm shift. That is the most powerful thing that happened to me after reading that book. Now, if we want to talk about the writing style of the author and the genre of the book, I would say the book is a book for personal growth and transformational change. It's a book for personal growth and transformational change. And since we are talking about 1,000-book transformational challenge, this is one book that can truly help you navigate your way through that challenge. This is one book I will recommend to anyone who wants to make the most of their life, who wants to be effective in their life, who truly desire to be successful. This is one book I will recommend to you. So the book is a book for personal growth and transformational challenge. It uses the framework of logic, and visual aids to convey its point. Just like I showed you the image of the young woman and the old woman, that image is so powerful, so powerful. It deploys personal stories and reflective exercise to make abstract principle concrete. The book is also very strong on leadership skill development. If you want to get a copy of this book, it's still available on Amazon. If you go to Barnes and Nobles, you can find it there. And virtually in all the major bookstores of the world, you will still find a copy of Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You'll still find it. The book is still very much available, even though the author has died for nearly 15 years now. The book is still very much available, so you can get it anywhere. You know they're selling good books in this world. So my conclusion for you as I wrap up this book review is let's begin this journey together. I want to see you move to the next phase of your life, but moving to the next phase of your life is not going to happen because life is going to gift it to you. You have to demand what you want from life before life can give it to you. Life is not fair to anybody. That's the truth. If anybody tells you that life is fair to him or her, the person doesn't really understand life. Life doesn't want to treat you nice. You are the one who would demand what you want from life. And then once life sees that you really meant business, then life will decide to give you what you truly wanted. But on a general note, life is not going to be fair to you. You have to demand that fairness, that this is what you want from life. I want to challenge you to start your own journey of 1,000-book transformational challenge. I'd like you to share your story with me, share your experience, share the experience of how it's going with you. I know it's a long journey. You will need to invest in books. Most importantly, if you don't have all the money to buy the books, borrow books. I did a lot of borrowing. I would even say I borrowed more books than the books I bought. Though I bought a lot of books, I invested a lot in buying books, but I would still say that I borrowed more books than the books I bought with my money. And there was this friend of mine who also lived with me while I was in Angola, who was also coming to school anytime he travels to Lagos on holiday and all that. He will come with his father also loves books, so he will come with all the books that his father has just bought. In fact, there were 2 of them that were doing that for me. He will come with new set of books, and I will make sure I read all those books before he returned them back to Lagos. And I will make sure that I do not deface the book. I will read them, make some notes, and that was how I was living my life. But the most important thing was that the desire, the hunger, the thirst for knowledge was very insatiable for me. I long, if there is anything I hated in life, it is ignorance. I hated ignorance with passion, and I did everything I could do to pursue after knowledge. I hope to see you next time when we'll be talking about, maybe this time around, we'll be talking about the second part of this book, because Stephen Covey actually wrote another book that he calls The 8 Habits. I have a copy of that. I can show you that. I have that in my library here. I can show you Is it? Yes, this is the book. This is the 8 habits. We'll be sharing about this in our next review because I borrowed the 7th habit, but after I learned what I learned from that, I decided to buy the 8 habits, and we'll be sharing this in our next episode. Till I see you then, have a great day, and let's keep chatting, let's keep talking, let's keep talking about your experience, about your own transformational challenge. God bless you. Bye-bye.